Is there a third tier in Spiral Dynamics? Let's have a look. Hello, this is Shores on Infinity with your host Chris speaking. Today about a possibility of a third tier in Spiral Dynamics. By the way, if you hear noise in the background, it's a thunderstorm with heavy rain. So, is there a third tier in Spiral Dynamics? In mainstream Spiral Dynamics, there isn't. Yeah, there is first tier, beige to green. And then second tier, yellow, turquoise, and maybe some other colors like coral. Okay, that's as far as Claire Graves got, and his direct pupils like Don Beck and Christopher Cohen and so on. Well, Ken Wilber and Peter Mary went further. They said, okay, the second tier also has 6 colors. And Peter Mary called it yellow, turquoise, coral, teal, plum, and aubergine. While Ken Wilber then later changed his view, and also he changed the names of the colors, especially the last 4 colors are now indigo, violet, ultraviolet, and clear light. But he changed other colors as well so that it fits more the spectrum of light and not some arbitrary colors. But then he said the shift from turquoise to coral is as profound and world-shaking than the shift from green to yellow, which is true. So he says there's a first tier with 6 colors, a second tier with only 2 colors, yellow and turquoise, and a third tier with 4 colors, coral to aubergine respectively, indigo to clear light. I understand very well why he said that. It makes sense. So in Ken Wilber terms, this is the third tier, the last 4 colors of what other people say is the second tier. And some people write to me, recently someone wrote to me and said, for her it seems that green, yellow and turquoise are second tier. She also thinks that the shift, or was it, no, orange, green and I think it was orange, green and yellow, which is second tier because they're so logical probably. And then third tier would start with turquoise. That yellow is not so different from green. I can also see where she's coming from, but actually the difference between green and yellow is very, very extreme. In orange and green, people pretend to be open, but actually they're not. For example, censorship. Yeah, people who are centered in green are very much pro-censorship, as long as it's the others who get censored. Well, yellow is against censorship. Everything should be open. Everyone should have the freedom to choose for him or herself, for themselves, what they want to watch or read or so. There should be no censorship. It's just one example. Don't get hung up upon it. Yellow is totally open and just gathers information like a sponge and thinks that it will get a holistic picture sooner or later, which doesn't happen. While green is extremely opinionated. It thinks of itself as open, but it's extremely opinionated. The same goes for blue and orange. It's only they pick a small part and then really go deep into it, and everything else is bullshit. It's horrible, unscientific rubbish. Or against the law, against ideology, against religion, not politically correct, not gender conform, whatever. Yeah. This is all first tier because you need to define your personality. Yellow is an in-between color somehow because it's the very beginning of second tier. Just like beige is almost its own tier because it's only about the survival from moment to moment. You could also argue that yellow is almost its own tier because it's finding a foothold in this new world. it's a fence sitting somehow. Yeah, it's with one leg still in first tier, green or orange, and with one leg already in second tier, but not really. So it's very astute of that the person who wrote to me that yellow doesn't somehow feel like second tier, but it is. It just doesn't feel like it sometimes because it's so much the beginning. It's the first few baby steps. The reason why the first tier is the first tier, the first 6 colors are about personality development. The second 6 colors, or in Ken Wilber terms, the 2 colors of the second tier and the 4 colors of the third tier, they are about soul development, about intuition development, about letting go of the personality and its programmings and brainwashings, and finding intuition, finding the larger picture, not by thinking but by experiencing, but by being there. If you want to use Eckhart Tolle, by being in the now, being here now, not in the past, not in the future. Stop theorizing, go inside and experience the stuff. Not just talking, but being. That's the next 6 colors. The first 6 colors was about building a personality. The second 6 colors about letting go of the personality and building up intuition and soul power instead. So this is all information that you can find online in discussion forums, in official Spiral Dynamics books and courses, where you can even get a certificate or some such nonsense. And Ken Wilber books. There are some new Ken Wilber books. People ask me if I read the latest 2 Ken Wilber books. I didn't. I don't read much anymore. If I have time, I go inside, or I do a video for you. It's much more interesting to look inside. All the answers are inside. Ken Wilber is very advanced. Consciously, he is enlightened, not fully enlightened, but what I call enlightened or done, almost enlightened. So what he writes is cool, but he tends to go off on theoretical abstract tangents that are not practical sometimes. And what I'm interested in is practical. What works? What is helpful in the day-to-day life and struggle on the path of spiritual and full spiritual enlightenment? I'm only interested in what works, not what could be theoretically the case. That is where many orange, green and yellow scented people get hung up on. And in many forums you can find it's mostly yellow scented people. They talk for years and years and years. They discuss what could possibly theoretically be the case. That's not interesting to me. I don't care what could theoretically be the case. It's only interesting what can be verified by experience and what helps to let go and move on. So that being said, there's another theory of third tier spiral dynamics, and I have hesitated to go public with this. It has been growing in the community of this channel, and the founders of this channel has been kind of cooking, simmering for 20 years or so. Maybe it's time to talk about it now, although I shudder to think what will be done with it. A lot of things that I've said over the last 4 years have been dismembered and put together in a horrible Frankenstein way, and as soon as I explain another color like teal or plum or aubergine, there are people popping up who think they're teal or plum or aubergine or whatever, as high as possible. It's not about high, as I've said many times. It's an onion model. You add colors. It's not like you jump from color to color and you leave your previous colors. No, you add more layers. So if your center of gravity is coral, for example, you add coral to all the previous 8 colors. And this is the topic you're struggling with right now. So there's a theory which is based upon experience also. That's the important point here, that there are not only 12 colors in spiral dynamics, but at least 18. Yeah, they're the first 6 about the personality, the second 6 about intuition and soul, and then the third 6, which we have named yet with colors. It's in a certain way it is abstract and theoretical, because it's unlikely that anyone you know will ever get there. Sorry to say. Yeah? The chance to get there is about 1 in a billion. There are about 8 billion people on the planet, so it's theoretically there could be about 8 who are centered in a third tier color. In color 3.1 to 3.6. After Aubergine, after clear light. Not the Ken Wilber third tier, but another set of 6 colors, a third set of 6 colors. So 1 in a billion about. So right now about 8 people. So if you think you're there, it's probably an ego trip. So I myself am not there, but I know people who are. And the reason why I talk about people like UG and Meher Baba and Aurobindo and Jed McKenna, and because they have also been there. Bernadette Roberts, Mother Mira. Yeah? There are some people who have been there, and that's interesting. That's spicy. That's why we want to know more. How does it feel like? It's almost unimaginable to what is plum and aubergine, and it's even more unimaginable what is beyond aubergine clear light. Like what could possibly come after that, which is exactly the point. People who are centered in plum or aubergine, that is ultraviolet or clear light, they think that's it, and often that's it. It's true. That's usually the end of the journey for them. But there is the possibility, even if it is with a small likelihood, that the journey goes on. Let go, move on. That's the ticket. And it's not about patting your own shoulder and self-aggrandizement, saying, "Oh, I'm the spiral king now. I'm in third tier, 3.4 or something. I'm the most enlightened being ever." Then you're probably not. Then you're still in yellow. But the question is, after you've already given up everything, what could possibly be left? That is where the video The Void comes in, for example. Yeah, I've made a video called The Void. Watch it if you haven't watched it yet. This is, for example, an experience that usually comes in third tier spiral dynamics. There's always more to give up. Someone recently asked, well, it sounds like if the void is scary, then there must be fear left. How can there be fear left? Well, I don't know how it can be, but it is the case. There's still something inside that is afraid of total dissolution, of annihilation, of the drop dissolving into the ocean. There's always a little bit of individuality left, somehow. And if you let that go too, or any other beautiful part, like the feeling of unity with the divine or something, you have to let go of that as well. Huh? Anyway, the only two really comfortable colors, enjoyable colors, are turquoise and teal. If you're looking for joy and comfort and a nice life, wait until you get to turquoise or teal and stay there. Plum and aubergine are not enjoyable because they're neither enjoyable nor not enjoyable. They're very neutral. And in third tier, its words are failing. It cannot be described in terms of in dual terms anymore. So third tier seekers, they're not after peace and well-being and joy anymore. They just want to know the truth, whatever it is. And they're open to whatever it is. They're not invested. I asked one of them recently what he thinks about Aurobindo. Aurobindo is correct about the cosmic evolution of consciousness, the human evolution of consciousness as part also of a cosmic evolution of consciousness. And he said it doesn't really matter. From one point of view, there is something like an evolution of consciousness, and from another point of view, there isn't. Both make sense and both don't make sense. But it's not important. The important thing is, why would you want this to be true or untrue? Why would you prefer a certain way or theory or teaching? What is there in you who wants it to be true that there is a meaning, a higher meaning to this, or that there is no higher meaning to this? This is the interesting question. Not if it is true. The divine is infinite, and thus for us ultimately not fully graspable. Otherwise it wouldn't be infinite. So the third tier, as a third set of 6 colors, is entering the infinite. Shows of infinity. Is entering the infinite, which is indescribable. As Lao Tzu has said, for example, the Tao that can be put into words is not the Tao. Those who dare to enter the infinite will get some answers, but it's basically a structureless travel through space and time, and you never know where you end up. Here the paths really diverge and become more and more unique. And it's not anymore about being right or not right, and things don't matter anymore. Also, if you teach and pass this on or not, everything is besides the point. Here really the last vestiges of ego get lost somehow, dissipate. And the concern is not anymore, what can I do? What happens to me? Because this is completed. The ego journey has been completed in first tier, and the soul journey has completed in second tier. So what's left? The collective. It's not about me anymore. It's about the collective. It's about humanity. It's about the planet, the cosmos, the divine, the absolute, the big thing, whatever you want to call it. And it's less and less about words. You can try to put it into words, like Aurobindo has tried in Savitri, but people won't understand it anyway. How could they? And often you come back to very, very simple teachings, like the Shivapuri Baba, for example. He came back to the basics. Or like, this famous Zen thing. Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. This is so deep. You come back to the basics, but it's not you who come back to the basics. It's you now, what Aurobindo and the mother called a willing servitor of the divine consciousness. You're not Peter anymore, or Mary, or Pippin, or whatever. you're willing servitor to the divine consciousness. You have given up your own path and sacrificed it to be a servant. So there cannot be any self-aggrandizement here. There often is. There again and again there are people, for example, Hawking scale fans, who say that they have reached Hawking scale 1000 and they can teach it. That's bullshit. Same if someone would come now and say he is 3.6 Spiral Dynamics, or she or they, and also they can teach it. It's bullshit. It's not. There's nothing you can teach to get there. Don't worry about it. First try to get to teal, plum and aubergine, which is crazy enough. A hell of a ride. And maybe if you spend some years there in plum and aubergine and you're really courageous and you can let go of every last single attachment identification, then you might come to third tier. And then it's over. In a way, your journey is over because there is no you anymore. There's only a willing servitor of the divine consciousness named Pete or Barbara or Eddie or whatever. But it doesn't matter anymore. You just go with the flow. You are the flow. There's not the experience anymore of someone going with the flow. Is just flowing. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you for liking, subscribing and joining me on Patreon. Thank you for those who have already joined me on Patreon. Thank you very much and see you soon.